Hey, hello, and welcome to this week's live stream. So, might have figured it out from the title, but the idea for this week is to work on a tool that can take an existing lxd installation and then turn that into a working incus installation. I did do a live stream a few weeks ago where I effectively did that by hand on my desktop machine to get myself out of lxd. Now, the idea is to turn that into a bit more of a reliable tool that can be included effectively as part of Linux distributions or packages so that that tool can just be run and the system can be converted effectively from lxd-to-incus. There are a few things that this tool is going to need to do. First of all, it needs to validate that the source and target servers are working properly. So making sure that it can talk to lxd, that lxd is running a version that it can support as far as importing data, and also connect to incus, make sure incus is up and running, and that it has nothing effectively. Like we want to make sure that the target server is effectively blank. A lot of that logic is not particularly new. There's a tool called lxd-migrate, which is part of the lxd snap package, which does some amount of that. And the idea for that tool was to convert from the lxd deb, which was included in Ubuntu until 1804, and convert that to the lxd snap, which was used from 2004 onwards. So that's that. A lot of the logic in that tool will probably be reusable. But the idea here too is to write a tool that's actually part of the incus codebase, is not like a third-party thing like lxd.migrate was. Yeah, so that's effectively most of the logic. It's like connecting to, well, detecting the source, connecting to it, detecting the target, connecting to it, making sure the versions are fine, making sure the target is empty, making sure there's nothing configuration-wise in the source which is no longer supported. So all of the stuff that has been removed already from incus, need to make sure that those configuration keys and stuff are all, that none of them are present. If they are, then that initial validation step should fail, and then the user can be directed to go and fix things before resuming the migration process. So once that's done, then what needs to be done is actually shut down the source and target servers, so both lxd and incus, and then move the data from the source into the right paths on the target, and then resume and effectively start back the target and connect to it and make sure that things appear to be working. If they are, then go ahead and effectively purge the source. So in this case, like remove the snap package effectively, at which point everything is running on incus. So that's the idea. That's gonna be for standalone systems. When dealing with clusters, things will be a bit weirder, but that's gonna be for another time. Like roughly speaking, for clusters, the trick's gonna be that the tool needs to be run on all of the machines. And yeah, the validation must be done on one of them, making sure that the cluster is compatible. And then once it is, then effectively none of the other tools will be able to run the validation because the cluster is gonna be shut down. So those tools will have to run with a different configuration key or something, effectively telling them, hey, this is a cluster. You're not the first iteration of that tool to run. So just shut down, move the data, start it back. And once they've all done that, then the cluster should be back as an incus cluster and can validate that things work. It's going to be a bit more nerve-wracking with clusters because what to do in case of revert is going to be a bit trickier than the standalone case. Anyway, that's basically the idea. So what I'm going to be doing, just trying to move things on my desk a bit so I can actually get to my trackpad and things here. Okay, so that's the incus code base. There are currently no changes in that code base. You can see that I'm running incus as well here. Just before starting the live stream, what I was actually doing, not remember from what terminal, I guess we can do this one, was going in, so I've got a VM running here. It's called U1. It runs Ubuntu 2204, as you can see. And what I was doing in there, I'm not sure if that font change will help much, but hopefully. It runs lxd, so it's got lxd running with 2 instances. And what I was doing, oops, where's my terminal now? That's special. Hello. Okay, that font size change was not a good idea. It's not dealing with that properly. Okay. Sure. Let's see. Okay, if I do the font size change now and then zoom, does that work better? Oh, looks like that might have done it. Yeah, that's working. Cool. All right, so hopefully a bit more readable. Okay, so it's got lxd running. It's got 2 instances here. Version is running 5.17, which may or may not be a problem actually in this case, because incus is still based on 5.16. I don't believe they've made any database changes between 5.16 and 5.17, so it's probably okay. But yeah, we'll have to check that. Anyway, it shouldn't be an upgrade path that's supported. That's what I'm saying. Effectively, when testing the tool today, I'm going to have to bypass that particular check, because we should not allow from moving from more recent version of lxd to an older version on the incus side. That would not work well. Anyways, so lxd is running. I did install, I did build incus, but didn't actually install it yet. So I believe there should be a path here. Yeah, so the incus, the command line tool is there, and the daemon is there. Daemon doesn't find a database yet. So effectively I was at a stage where I need a systemd unit to run incus, just so that the upcoming tool I'm going to be writing can actually detect that properly. Now I'm kind of bad at writing systemd units, so let's see if I can figure that out quickly. I'm gonna be cheating and just take an existing one first. So let's take the one for lxd itself here, and then go and create a new one. Let's call it incus.service, and just dump that in. So okay, I'm not gonna go, yeah, network's fine. After, you'll just get network target, that should be okay. Don't need that thing. Environment, yeah, that's cool. We're gonna need some extra configuration stuff there, but that's okay. Root go bin incus d is the daemon. Syslog identifier, just call that incus. Restart on failure, working there. That doesn't really matter, but yes, make it varlib incus, which should probably be created if it hasn't been yet. There we go. Stop reload, no need. Timeout stops 10 minutes. Yeah, that's fine. Simple delegate. Yeah, okay. So that should be mostly okay. Now the main issue are environment variables to get the database up and running effectively. So let's figure that out. It's ld library path, and it would be in incus. Oh, actually, just put in go depths. Yeah, that's where we build that stuff. Cool. Char SQL and .libs. Yeah, that looks correct. And we need char SQL is the replacement for dqlite. It's the community fork of it. Okay, let's see if that works. Yep, that's working. It's complaining about missing NF tables and IP tables, so let's just install those tools. I did not install what's needed for QEMU either. Well, that's much more than I want to install. Okay, here we go. So just installing some more dependencies, effectively what's needed for firewalling and what's needed for virtual machines, mostly so that incus can start and be happy. This is not needed for the lxd snap because everything is bundled, but since incus is built from source here, that's a bit different. Okay, So now it's looking a bit better, but still complaining about missing. What's the name of the package? Is it OVMF? Let's try it out. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now we're getting what we were expecting, which is just some cgroup complaints, but other than that, incus is up and running. Cool. So now to put that into the systemd unit. So that stuff here needs to go in here. Just putting that there. That should be fine. There's an install section I'm missing, I believe, but never remember how that works. Yeah. What do we have on that system that I can just get myself inspired on? I guess ZFSZED. Oh, there we go. But that's not the correct install sequence. Install unit. What else can I look at? That's the problem with our images. They don't contain a lot, and most of it are actually systemd stuff. I guess could maybe do snapd itself, but it might also be starting at a weird time. Oh, lxdfs.service, that's a good one. Let's look how that one works. Okay, there we go. Install multi-user targets. That's what I was looking for. So if I do vi edit and just add that, now we should be able to enable the unit. And now that it's enabled, start it. And with a bit of luck, yeah, we've got incus running. Cool. So now I can just do root go bin incus list. And yeah, we do have incus running and lxd running. And we can check incus reports 516, lxd reports 517. Okay, so that's set up. I'm just gonna be shutting down this VM. Okay. And I'm gonna create a snapshot on it so that should it fail like mid-migration or anything, when we actually get to start playing with the tool, then I can just revert to that good state. Okay, so that's the test environment ready. Now I need to actually write code for something to test on that. So new folder, and I'm gonna call that in lxd-to-incus. Just kind of similar to our existing lxd-to-incus, but obviously in this case we're moving from lxd. And in there, I'm gonna just keep it messy at the beginning, which is just create a single main file, dump everything in there, and then possibly during the stream, possibly after, I'm gonna go tidy things up and split them into different files. So the package is gonna be main, and as far as stuff we need to import, other than the kind of usual stuff, we're gonna be needing to actually import the lxd package, import client, import the incus package as well, so that we've got clients for both sides. So that makes sense. I bet we're gonna need format at some point. We always do need format at some point. So main function, and I'm also not bothering adding command line parser just yet. Normally we use SPF 13's Cobra, which is kind of a standard parser. I'm gonna go ahead and put that boilerplate in place later. For now, I can just kind of cheat and get the arguments directly from the OS package. Yeah, there shouldn't even really be a need for arguments initially. So effectively, just what I'd be doing is make a run function and have it return an error, and then if there's an error here, we can just do and then os.exit1. Okay, and then that's our run function that will actually do the work. And now that one can just return an error if it feels like it, and that will be fine. Okay. So at this stage, this should be okay, except that I now have two imports that I'm just plain not using, and one I'm actually missing. So let's just go fix that and go in the actual folder here. See, it's complaining variable of oh right, yeah, I actually wanted fprintf instead of printf. There we go. Cool. So that gave me a lxd-to-incus binary, which does absolutely nothing. Cool. So that's the most basic boilerplate to actually get something, just get something up and running here. All right. Now I'm gonna need to do a bit more work to prepare the source and target. That I might actually do in a separate file. So let's go different file. Call that sources.go. It's still in the main package. And this one will definitely need to import the lxd client there. So the idea here is to define a Go interface, which I just realized I don't actually remember the syntax for now. So let's just go look at one we have in side of incus already. So if we do storage, pull interface, is it just type interface? Oh yeah, type whatever interface. Okay, cool. That makes sense. So the idea here is we'll define a new type. Let's call it source, and it's an interface. And now that represents the source of the migration. So on the source, what we need to check is first, is it actually present? So that's going to be one function. And the one is going to be, we need to be able to stop it. So stop function. We need a way to like purge it effectively, so I fully remove it. And we need a way to connect to it. And that is going to be returning a lxd instance server, which is the interface to access lxd. And that might be all we need. No, there's another thing. We're going to need to know the paths. So for the paths, like it's not just one path, like, oh, all of the lxd's data is in that particular directory. We're actually going, so with the snap, everything is in one directory, but with incus, we're splitting that. And effectively, there's the main storage path, and then there's a path for logs and a path for cache. So instead of just returning one string here, we probably need to return a struct instead that can return those. So again, takes no argument, but it should return, let's call that daemon paths, and an error. Now we need to actually define daemon paths. So let's do, well, actually, that's going to be shared with source and targets. So that might as well make that another file. Okay, so type daemon paths, and this one is a struct. And we'll need, so the daemon itself, need the logs and the cache. Okay, so that's it for that file. You can save that one, close it, which now makes this one valid, so we're good. And is there anything else we're gonna need? Connection with stop. I mean, technically we may need start in a revert situation. The problem with those kind of migration tools is that reverting is very difficult, since well, typically the data has been moved. That's particularly true for any case where a disk image is also present, because that will need to move like a massive amount of data. And so we can't just go and copy so that we can easily revert. It's not clear that there's going to be a very good revert path at that stage. That being said, it doesn't really cost much to add that here, so might as well. Okay, so that's the definition of what a source daemon should kind of look like. Now we need effectively the same thing for targets. So at this stage, target will pretty much just have pretty much be the same. Well, we'll just have one target effectively, which is, hey, we're moving to incus with a systemd unit present. Anyway, let's just rename that to targets. So this one will not connect to lxd, it's gonna connect to incus. To change that, incus. Present still exists, stop start is needed. We're not going to be purging the target, so that doesn't matter. And then this is now an incus instance server, so that's fine, and daemon paths. Okay, so let's see, does this stuff still build, or am I missing stuff? All right, so now it's saying that since we need to actually connect to lxd, we need to now pull that package into the into the go mode file effectively. So that's fine. Okay. I'm probably gonna have to check whether the migration tool can be kept a bit separate for that. I don't really like the idea of the incus code base pulling in the entirety of the dependencies coming from lxd. That's not ideal. But also don't necessarily want to use the incus client package to talk to lxd, because there will be some API differences that are going to cause issue there. Now I'm trying to remember, I might actually be able to just do an intermediate go mode to avoid that. Let's see. So basically going into the lxd-to-incus directory, go mode init, github lxd-incus cmd lxd-to-incus. Okay. So now that gives us our own go mode file here, which does pull all of the dependencies, including lxd, but that should mean we can strip some, well, that we'll get to strip some stuff from that top level go mode maybe. Let's see. What did it do? Okay. Just checking if that refresh effectively removed lxd as a dependency there. It probably did. Yeah, looks good. So I'm actually not gonna be doing that update now. I'm just gonna be resetting both files. So let's do that. Okay. So now if I build it, what does it say? It does not contain main packages. Oh, it's just complaining about the where I'm building it from. That's fine. So if I go here, okay, so now it's building from within the right directory, and it's just complaining because my target is called the source, which is obviously not good. So let's go fix that. This is the target. Go, and I built. Cool. It still doesn't do anything, but those types are now in place. The idea here is now that in here, what we'll want to do is actually iterate through potential sources, then iterate through potential targets, then validate versions, validate configuration. And if we succeed all the way through that, then begin. Oh, well, I guess the stop source, stop target, migrate data, start target, validate target, purge source. So that's the rough idea of what we want to do. But for that, we need to actually have a list of sources and list of targets, which we currently don't have. So here we need to actually define that. So we want sources to be a list of source. Currently it's got none. And we want targets to work the same way. So list of target. Okay. So basically we want that. And same here with an incus server instead. So that's the two types we need. Now for that to work, I need those imports back. So let's uncomment them, go down here, and then the draw logic is gonna be, let's call that candidate, and just range over all of the sources. Then if candidates.present, well, actually let's skip the logic slightly cleaner by skipping if it's not present. So if it's not present, we'll just skip it. Otherwise, we could do more validation there. If we're happy, then the source becomes candidate, and then we break out of that loop. And same logic for the target. I'm not sure if it's gonna let me get away with reusing candidate for that. We'll see. I'm not too sure about the scoping on that variable. So the same logic, except in this case, it is the targets that we're setting to the candidate, and then we break. Okay, let's see if it complains. Source declared not used, and target declared not used, cannot use candidate, variable of type source. Oh, right, yeah, that makes sense. The type here is just wrong. And same thing here. So I don't actually need the imports, and I might not actually ever need them, because they're just gonna directly come from the other one. Okay, so it's just complaining that they are defined and not used, which is perfectly fine. Cool. And now we can just go with if source is null, return no source server could be found, and do the same thing with target. Target server could be found there. So let's see, that should build. Yeah, it's fine, and just tells me there's no source. Okay, so that's a bit more boilerplate in place. Now what we need to do is actually define a source and target, add those to the slice of source and target, and then run this again. And it should this time actually find them and be able to go to the next stage. There's one more thing that should happen all the way here, which is confirm that we're root, which would be always get UID 0. Tool must be run as root. Gonna be just validating that this works, but then quickly comment that out. Oops. Yeah. not equal 0. That's better. Oops. Okay. That's fine, but need to comment that chunk for now because I'm testing it as a non-root user for the time being until the tool can actually do some useful stuff, at which point I will move it to the VM. So I'm just going to be commenting that chunk for now. That being said, it's never going to be able to find a source because my own system that I'm running this on doesn't have, like it's not running lxd anymore. The other thing is, wanted to make sure that we can actually compile that statically. So cu enabled 0, because that will make it easier to transfer the resulting binary to the VM to actually test it inside the VM. That's working. So actually, let's just remove that check, like re-enable the check. Okay. Build this statically, and just in the same pipeline, gonna be transferring it over to the VM. So it's lxd-to-incus, and the VM is called u1, and we'll transfer that into the root folder. So now when we run it, it just rebuilds, transfers it. And if we go, say, in this one, so that puts us in the VM, and then we can run lxd-to-incus. And it does properly go through the root check, which is fine, and just hits the no source server could be found. All right, so let's just go ahead and implement the initial source. So let's call it src snap. Well, yeah, source snap struct, and then on that we need to implement the different functions. So for now, I'm just putting boilerplate in place effectively. So just a bare minimum for things to still build, but not actually doing anything useful. Actually, let's make it return true just so that we can see that it does go to the next chunk. Okay, source snap start. So I actually did forget to mark this one as returning an error there. Okay, start purge, same deal. And a lot of those are going to be very trivial to implement, which is good. So that don't want the live stream to end up taking a day, you know. Thanks for the VS Code tip in the chat. Yeah, I'm still very much a Vim user who pretty much only uses VS Code for live streams at this stage. So I'm still getting used to the absolutely insane number of shortcuts and tweaks you can do in this thing. Okay, so this one we're just gonna be cheating for now. Actually, we can also return out implemented here. There we go. And what was the last one? Last one is paths. Okay. Well, this one is actually something I can pre-fill because it's effectively predetermined. So the demand paths here. There we go. So we just return a demand path struct, and the daemon is gonna be var snap lxd command lxd. The logs are at var snap lxd command lxd logs, and the cache is at var snap lxd command lxd cache. So that's what that looks like there, and we don't need to return an error, so just now. Okay, let's see if that stuff still builds. We probably messed something up. Well, not too much. Okay. I'm using format everywhere for returning an error, but I forgot to actually import it. So let's do that. And it builds. Good. Now I need to actually add it to the list of sources. So let's just do that. Type is not an expression. Right. Cannot use values as source, value an array or slice. Does not implement source, method connect house pointer receiver. Right. So that means I need that. There we go. Okay, so it's built, it's copied over, and now because present says true, it should just move on to failing on the target part. Okay, so that makes sense. Now, to detect whether it's actually present, we'll do a few things. Validate, that's the, what are we gonna be doing? Because I can check that the snap, yeah, we'll just check that the snap is actually present and that the storage actually is present too. Okay, so for that, we're going to be importing another package here. So actually, foreign imports first there. So incus shared, and just do if not shared dot path exists, snap lxd return false. If not shared exist var snap lxd return false. That should mostly cover it. So if I go ahead and rebuild this thing again, and we run it over there, it should still go straight to the target stuff. Cool, so that makes sense. Now we just need to go and implement some of the other bits real quick. So for stopping everything, the easiest is gonna be to do, I think it actually returns the output, which we don't need. So we've got a run command wrapper thing in lxd that we can use for that, and just do snap stop lxd. And then return the error. Okay. Is it happy with that? Yes. Okay, cool. So usage for that command is fine. Then starting is the exact same logic. So that's easy. Removal is a bit different. So this one needs to be remove and it needs to be purged. Otherwise, it's gonna try and make like a snapshot thing, which takes a whack ton of space and it's completely pointless. Okay, so that's fine. Now for the client. So that part is slightly more involved. So I'm trying to remember the syntax. We'll see if I get it right. We need lxd dot connect Unix or something like that. Is that right? I don't have the help for that nearby, but I can go look at the incus implementation because it will be very, very similar. Just not connect lxd, it's going to be connect incus. So connect in, there's a Unix one somewhere. With context, connect incus Unix. So connect lxd Unix would be fine. Then it takes the path and takes the absolute path to the full socket, okay? And then args, which would be connection args. And I don't know that I need any. We can probably just pass no. Yeah, that should be fine. Okay, so let's go and do that. So connect lxd Unix. And it's gonna take the path, so that's gonna be this. And no connect struct, so no. And this just returns, well, effectively I'm returning exactly what this thing returns, so I can just take that shortcut of doing it that way and see if that works. Okay, now we're no longer using format because there's no more printing of error strings anywhere in here, so just save that, transfer, and go and see what happens. Okay, still the same thing, but now with a working source. So that's good. Can implement effectively the same thing for the target. So just go and copy paste the whole thing. Go to targets and go here and we'll call it target systemd. Because how it got installed doesn't really matter. All it matters is how it can be controlled. So in this case, checking if it's present validate, we'll just need to check var lib-incus and trying to remember the systemd stuff. There's a system cattle command. Just trying to remember how stuff works. Is enabled, is active, is system running. Okay, there's no obvious this thing exists, which is slightly unfortunate. If I do status on say foo, that fails. If I do status on incus, that's 0, it's fine. Now if incus wasn't running, what do I get? 3. Okay, so yeah, that's not ideal. I'm probably gonna do something more, like I can actually go and check error codes and all that stuff, just not with the simple run command. So that would take a tiny bit longer to figure out. Let's just cheat a tiny bit here, and we're gonna go and assume the systemd unit path, which is not what you actually want in the final product, but it will do just fine for today. So I'm gonna go check if incus.service exists. And if those are true, then we're fine. Now target systemd for stop is gonna be system cattle stop incus start. Should probably just put that in my paste. Okay. System cattle again. Stop incus. Purge is not a thing in that interface, it doesn't matter, that can go away. This one needs to, the name needs to change. And needs to change, there we go. This one needs to be incus now instead of lxd, which turns it into incus.connect incus Unix. And the path for the socket is also different and becomes simply this. Okay, and now for the paths, those are also different, so I'm gonna go and fill those in. So let's just do incus for the main directory, log incus for the logs, and cache incus for the cache. Okay, so last step here is adding that again as an entry in our list. Save that and go see what, if anything, I messed up. Okay, just missing the import for shared, that's fine. There we go. And transferred. Cool. So going into that in there, now running the tool, it outputs nothing, so that means it found both a source and a target. So yay, that worked. That means we're now hitting this part where we should go look at versions. So we'll do source server info and target server info. Trying to remember exactly what's in there. It might be returning an e tag. I think it would return an e tag, so we don't need the e tag. And that would be on this would be source connect and then get server info, get server thing. Okay. Just do the same thing here. Should probably rename connect into clients. That would be more better naming for what it's doing. Failed getting targets. All right. So that should be fine. And now can just print what we got. So I mean, source version is would be source info dot. I don't actually remember the structure of this stuff now. Let's just go look at it. So that's basically the data we're dealing with. And if we want, so this is lxd, so 517. It's in server version, which is inside environment. Okay. So that means it's environment dot server version most likely. And that's the source and that's the target. Okay. Okay, good. All right, because we made it so that the client can actually return an error. Okay, fine. So just gonna do a source client, which let's do this dot. So it just gets me a client I can then rely on and do the same thing for target. Also, I forgot to see here. Target client, there, target, and fail to connect to the target. Okay. And here, instead of doing all that dance, I can just do src client now and get that. And this one would be target client and similar. Okay. Trainer source client and defined types of. Oh, right. Yeah, because it's not client, it's connect. Actually, gonna make a lot more sense that way. Okay. Here we go. Cool. So that's built and transferred. Now, if I go here and run it, source version 517, target version 516. So that is correct. Obviously, if we were to do an actual version check in the validation section, that would now fail. But this is fine for what we're doing right now. Now what we can look at, because part of the server info is actually a list of config keys, like we can go look at the server config. So that does let us do the initial validation step. There's going to be a list of config keys that I need to set that no longer exist effectively. but there's an easy one we can test with, and then I'm gonna expand that later on. So we can let's do a deprecated configs, define that as a slice of string, and the main one is core trust password, which doesn't exist anymore. Now what we can do is iterate over that. So iterate over deprecated configs, and we pretty much just need to see if it's set. So okay, and then the source server info dot config, I think, adds that key. And so if the key is there, then we immediately fail. Source server is using deprecated key. Please unset and retry. Okay. So something along those lines, that should do it. Null boolean statement and if statement at line 82. Okay. Is it the other way around? I never remember the syntax for that mess. It probably is the other way around, isn't it? Yep. Okay. Because we don't actually need to look at the value, we just need to check whether it's set. And now it fits. There you go. Source version 517, target version 516. Source version is using deprecated key, core trust password. Please unset and retry. So if we go look at the configuration of the source, we can indeed see that it does have the trust password set. So that needs to be unset to then clear. So that's good. And that's going to get expanded to a whole bunch of other configuration keys here. The other stuff I've not done is actually confirming that the source contains stuff and the target, well, and the target doesn't. So source non-empty, validate target empty. And I don't actually remember how I did that in the past, because that's logic that already exists in the existing tool that was used for the lxd snap. So let's go look at that. And it's lxd migrate. Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna. There we go. There's a function called check empty. I don't remember what it's doing, but let's figure out where it's defined and what it does. So it's in lxd.go and check empty. It looks at some existing structs. Yeah, I mean, that logic is probably flawed. But yeah, it looks at, I mean, first of all, it's using get containers, which is an old API. The problem is we need to look across projects these days, because it could be that the default project is empty and that the basic get instances or get images or something will just succeed with nothing listed and look like it's empty when it's actually not. Okay. So we're gonna need, and sadly it's logic I'm gonna have to duplicate because it's not the exact same client in both cases. So let's see. I'm gonna do a few steps. The first step is gonna be make sure there's a single project. If there are more than one project, then it's clearly not empty. Then the next step is gonna be checking if there's any instances, images, storage pools, networks defined. If there isn't, well, and profiled. If there isn't, then we should be safe. This should be empty. Or in this case, like in the case of the source being empty, then it's a pointless migration. We should just give up. Okay, so let's just define that as source check empty. I'm just gonna make that as a function. Just makes it a bit easier. And the first thing is, and this should return a bool. There. Check if more than one profile. So it's literally, we want a list of profiles. Actually, this should also be able to return an error, I think. Do that. Okay. And this is gonna be on the source. So just source client dot get profiles. I don't actually need a full profile, I can just do profile names. That's easier. So return errors if there is one, and then if and the prof is longer than one, then return false now. So that means that we have custom profiles. Actually, I should have done the projects check first, but it's the same logic effectively. So just copy paste that and just, oops, come on, copy paste that chunk, just do it for projects first. Okay. If more than one project, effectively, if there's more than one project, then we can immediately give up. If there's a single project, we know we don't need to go look at other projects. We can just check the default project because it's going to be the only one that exists. So that's those profiles. And then let's do instances, networks, storage pools. And if all of that is fine, then yes, it is empty. Okay. So let's go fill that mess up. So that's profile. The right section, yeah, profile. Okay, so do instances. Check if any instance. So this is just get instance names. Those are actually always gonna be names. So can actually cheat a tiny bit and always reuse the same variable. So I'm gonna names, and that will just make the copy pasting a bit easier. Names, which then becomes a simple assignment here, and names for the profiles. Okay, and then actually I can do the instances because that's gonna be the same logic, and then the rest I'll copy paste again. So this one said is then just get a list of names, and it gets instance names, and if there's more than 0, then we fail. Okay. And repeat for, let's do networks first. This one will actually be harder because it's managed networks we care about. And that's going to be a weird, slightly weirder one. The storage pools, this one is fine. So let's do storage pool first and then wrap up with networks. So for storage pool, get storage pool names. That's fine. This one we need to actually look at the structs, so get networks and actually get a list of networks too, and then iterate over that. And if the network is listed as being managed, then this is network that's defined by lxd. So that needs to cause that failure. Okay, so that's roughly that function done for checking whether the source is empty. And now the check is just if check empty, source server is empty, migration not needed. Okay, so that's the logic for that one. Let's see what are the chances that things are not completely wrong. 100. What did I do? Source client. Not enough argument in call. Get instance names. Oh, it wants instance types, right? That's gonna be slightly annoying. So we'll have to import that lxd-instance types.ne. Don't recall where that's actually defined. It's a shared API. Okay. So need to do GitHub. Let's do lxd API. Let's call it like that. Can only call lxd and it's the shared API package. Just update the naming here to be lxd API. For the instance type any. Yes, that's good. Sorry. So just do is empty. I know you can do it in a single line in Go. I just absolutely hate that syntax for some reason, so I always do it that way instead. Actually, just need to wrap that error too. Failed to check source server. Okay. Cool. So that built and it's been transferred. So now in theory, nothing should happen because source server is empty. Migration not needed. Okay. All right, because I've reversed the logic here by accident. So let's fix that. And now we should be fine. Okay. Yep, all good. Now, effectively, you need the exact same logic, but for incus, unfortunately, also like the type is not the same, so I can't just have one function I use for both as much as I would love to do that. So I need to redefine it and do effectively exactly the same thing twice, but just with a slightly different type. Like in theory, it might be possible to do an interface that wraps around that just right, but there's gonna be differences in API sooner or later between the two, and I don't want the tool to break at that point. So we're gonna do target check empty and gonna do the source client becomes target client, and the rest of the logic should be pretty much the same. I'm sure there's a nice shortcut to do a replace, like find and replace, but I have no idea what it is. Control H, apparently. Okay. So we want to source client becomes target client. Will it do it just in the chunk I've selected? Because if it doesn't, that might be a problem. Yeah, no, it doesn't. Okay. Can I do it one by one then? Yeah. Okay, so if I do enter, it will replace this one. But then it didn't. Replace. Okay. Fine. Just do it that way. Cool. So that should be what I need. Target client. Okay. Now, just do the exact same logic with is empty error and target check empty. Fail to check target server, wrap the error. Okay. If not, is empty. Okay. So now that should detect that the target is empty and it's complaining. lxd. All right. So as I said, it's not the exact same client package. So here I'm passing a lxd API when it needs to be an incus API instead. And I need to actually go and import it up here as incus API. Let's see. There we go. So that's built fine. And now if I go here and run it, we're good. So that has cleared that particular check. So it's all good. And now we are at the next step, which is stop the source, stop the target, move the stuff over, and then start validate purge. So stopping the source, that's pretty easy. We can just do source.stop and call it done. So just need to do error handling on it, but that's it. Okay. Can actually just copy paste that for the target. Fail to stop the target server. Nice and easy. And at that point, I mean, that should build just fine. I'm gonna try to run it because it's gonna stop both my servers and I've got to start them back up. Or, well, actually it might be fine. It's easy enough to undo. Let's go and do that. So it's taking a little while, which is a good sign. And we're done. So let's see, is there any lxd stuff running? There isn't. Any incus stuff running? Just the agent for the VM. So it did stop it fine. Let's start lxd backup. And start incus backup. Cool, so that's all fine. Now is for the actual tricky part of, well, we need to move the data around. I don't remember what I did last time, so I can look at lxd migrate, see what it did. I don't think I was using a copy. I think I was actually moving the data directly, but for those not familiar, there are different system calls to do that in Linux. And if you're moving data within the same mount point, you can use rename, which is atomic and instant. If you're not and you're going across boundary, so if you're moving from like two different mounts, then you can't do that. You need to instead copy the data and delete it. I suspect I might have gone the easy route of calling rsync, which is fine. The problem with rsync is that it makes an actual copy, and that does double the disk space temporarily, which is not exactly what I want to do, but would probably be fine for an initial pass before I move to something else. So let's see, it's cleaning the mounts, wipe the destination. Yeah, we'll obviously need to do that. Back up the database. Yeah, that's going to be something I need to add later. And then it does move files. Okay. And then, okay, so it's actually attempting to move things directly, it looks like. So that's good. We do need a wipe the target stage. Now the question is whether I add that as a function on the target. It doesn't really matter because I need to do it on all the paths anyways. So just see how I was doing the wipe back then. It's kind of convenient I already wrote that tool effectively in the past. Okay, just doing OS removal. Okay. So what we're going to be doing here is exactly that. So os.remove all of just do target paths and do targets.paths. Can that fail? I don't remember. We said that it could fail. Yeah, paths can fail. Okay, so I need to actually handle errors as well. failed to get target paths. Okay. So with that done, now we can rely on target paths, and we'll need to do it kind of in order. So can do logs and cache are usually fine. Then need to do daemon last. So need to get an error for that. Oop. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually checking if the error, so if there's an error and the error is not that the path is already gone, then actually return the error, but otherwise just move on because we don't care if the thing already doesn't exist. For those not familiar with Go, %sign q will get you a properly quoted string, and %sign w is used to wrap errors so that the caller can even extract the whole stack of errors effectively. In this case, I did kind of forget to pass the path, so I need to do that. Okay. So that's fine. That's for the logs directory, and then I need to do that as well for the cache and for the daemon itself. So this one is cache. And daemon, so do the daemon path here. Okay, so that should wipe the target. Just making sure this builds. It does not. It's because it's not target path, it's target paths. Just forgot an S in a few places. Let's go fix that. Go. Okay, so that's all good. Now with that in place, that will wipe all of the storage paths from the target daemon. So var cache incus, var log incus, and var lib incus will all be fully deleted. And then the next stage is to actually move the data from the existing daemon paths over to that. Now I wanted to go see what I did last time around, because there was a move function. Move files here. What was it doing? Okay, yeah, so that's one way to do it. Basically, instead of trying to be smart and have to actually do the logic of figuring out, am I going across amount? Do I need to do a copy and delete? Just went the very lazy route, which is just use mv. Because if you just shell out to the mv command, it does exactly that for you, and it's already, very good at its job. It's been around a long time. So that's one way to do it. We can do the exact same approach here. That's perfectly fine. So let's do that. And we're going to be doing it in the same order effectively. So doing logs, cache, and then daemon to move things into the expected spot. So shared run the command and mv, and then gonna be moving from the source. Actually, I need to get the source paths. Source paths. Source dot paths. Failed to get source paths. So that gets me the source paths. Now I can do logs first. So move logs to target path dot logs. Okay, with source paths dot logs, target paths dot logs, error. Okay, and then rinse and repeat for the other two. There we go. this is the daemon. I suspect when I kind of clean things up later, I'm probably gonna be adding more output as things happen, because, well, it's always a bit nerve-wracking when you run those kind of tools and like effectively nothing shows up on screen until you're done. That's not exactly ideal. So maybe adding some extra output to just show where we're at would make sense. Actually, why not just go and do that now? So iterate supernatural sources. Just do it basic looking for source server. Looking for target server. So connecting to the source server. This is connecting to the target server. Okay. And then checking server versions. So this one's gonna come with actually printing the versions here. Do a bit of indent on that. Server isn't empty. And then doing the same thing, but this time checking that the target server is empty. Checking that target server is empty. Okay. This one is validating source configuration. Okay. Then stopping. So that's also where there's gonna be like a manual validation stage, I suspect, where this kind of what was done with the snap version. There's gonna be a bit of a summary of what's going on exactly. Just showing like you're moving that many instances, storage pools, etc. And then having the user confirm that they're fine with that. And that will also just clarify that what's going on. It's like, okay, now if you move forward, this is gonna stop and move your data over. So like you need to make sure that it's fine for your instances to be stopped at this point. So there's still gonna be that to add later. Stopping the target server, wiping the target server. And then finally migrating the data. And then for the easy pieces, so this one is going to be starting target server. And validation would just be another server get effectively. So let's do checking the target server and purging, like removing, uninstalling the source server would be more like it. There we go. Okay, so just need to add the logic to actually do that, which is pretty easy. So just target.start. So just needs to do that. Okay, so that will start the target server back up. And then at the end, we're going to be purging the source. So source.purge failed to okay. And validation here is we had the target server info from earlier, so we're going to be reusing that. And I think we figured there was a E tag we don't need, so that's fine. And then that's just target client dot get server. Failed to get target server info. So, okay, and we just yeah, it doesn't actually, we don't actually need this one because the check is just whether the server is back on, so that's fine. We'll actually just add a sleep here of, I don't know, let's give it 5 seconds. Because currently in my current setup, it's not socket activated, so there's no guarantee that the socket will respond. We need to give a bit of time for the daemon to actually start up in between. So I'm gonna be cheating with a timed sleep. That probably won't be in the final form, but that's fine. Actually, that shouldn't be there because that's gonna depend on the target implementation. So this logic here should actually move to the target definition in the start function. So let's do it here. So if something went wrong, return it. If nothing went wrong, then just return null after waiting 5 seconds for things to start. Wait for the socket to become available. Not the cleanest thing ever, but that will work. Let's do time here. And let's go again. Okay. So a bunch of places where I'm probably trying to just redefine an error when I don't need to. Yep, bingo. So this one, no. This one, not. This one, not. Are the others I need to go fix? There are a few mentions of shared. Oh yeah, I never actually imported it, so I need to fix that. Because shared. Okay. Built and transferred. So now in theory, if we're very lucky and I didn't mess anything up, when I run this tool here, it should actually go and perform the migration. So right now, 2 instances are running. In lxd, there shouldn't be anything in incus. So let's see. 50-50, I guess, chance as far as this thing working, but that's why the VM has a snapshot, so it's easy to revert it back to this state and then try again. So source found, connected, check the versions, checking it's not empty, checking the target is empty, validating source, stopping target, wiped, move the data, and now starting it back. And it failed. Okay, so what happened? Yeah, it's clearly not happy. So let's look. Valib incus. I mean, sh mount is wrong. But other than that, what do we have that's wrong? Let's look at the log. Okay, it's not complaining particularly loudly. Let's try to start it manually. Okay, so sh mounts, yeah, that's failing. That's not a huge deal. And then a bunch of the symlinks are all gonna be wrong. So that's the other step that Polly had in the old tool, was rewriting all of the symbolic links on disk. But what I'm confused with is that the daemon still is coming online. So why didn't it earlier? Did I call the wrong thing? Target gets target.start. Yeah, that should have worked. Like it didn't fail or anything. Yeah, now it's running. Okay, so there's something wrong with target.start, which succeeded, but then didn't really do anything. Is it just wrongly defined in here? Yeah, okay, well, that would do it. Target.start called stub, so yeah, let's fix that. And let's rerun this thing. So there are a few errors, and obviously, so that's gonna need fixing, but incus snapshot restore u1 I think. Like in general, the migration should still work, so I'm gonna be reverting the VM. Oops. Okay, it's already running. It's cool. Just restoring the VM to its snapshot, waiting for it to start backup, transfer the binary again, and run the migration again. So we should have, yep, lxd running, instances running, incus, so I need to actually go call the binary from the right location, is here and empty. So that's fine. Now just need to transfer the migration binary again and run it. So it does complain about the just key, which is fine. So I clear that, run it again. And this time it should come back up. It's not gonna come back up very successfully, but should come back up. And this time it even went as far as in installing the source. So in theory, yeah, lxd is gone. Incus is here, and it shows the instances. Now, they don't work, and that's because there's a few steps that are needed as well as cleaning up. The sh mounts should just be deleted, so it can get recreated cleanly. Dev-lxd also should be deleted because it's no longer relevant since it's called dev-incus now. And then the symlinks need to be rewritten. So let's go here and just at least add the cleanup stage because that's easy enough. So migrate data. Once it's done, let's do a cleaning up stage. Clean up paths. Okay, so the first thing to do is going to be an OS removal of file path join target paths daemon and sh mounts. So effectively deleting that. And again, we should fail this one only if it returns an error, and the error is not that the thing doesn't exist. Okay. Okay. So that's one. Then the other one that needs deleting is gonna be dev-lxd. So dev-lxd also needs to go away. Like that. And then what's still needed is rewriting all those symbolic links. I'm hoping there might be logic we can just lift from the old tool because the same problem existed. Let's see, do we have logic doing symlinks? Rewrite storage, there we go. And what it does in life is it also did ZFS, but ZFS is not as relevant these days. Then rewriting the container links. Yeah, so a bunch of that stuff is still mostly relevant. Yeah, so effectively need some version of that logic across. Yeah, CFS doesn't make that much sense. And see if I can put like the basics in place because they're effectively just not that many paths we need to actually fix for this to work in this environment. So sh mounts, dev-lxd, they're gonna be gone, it's fine. containers that needs fixing, virtual machines that will need fixing, and same thing with, I think snapshots probably also have the same issue, maybe not. I think snapshots might not have the same problem, but need to at least fix containers and VMs. So let's see. How did that work? So there was a symlink rewrite function, which was just rewriting, going through convert path. It was convert path doing. It comes from a different file. What's that? One thing I don't actually, there might actually be a shortcut to that, because I'm reasonably sure that these days lxd and incus, because of supporting for migration within clusters, they might support just recreating that stuff on startup if missing. So I just want to see if that does it, because if it does, it's going to be easier. I'm not completely sure it will, but no, doesn't look like it does. So if I do try to start, yeah, that's failing. Either it's failing or it's rewriting the file system. I'm not sure which. Let's see. Fail to set up shared mount space. Well, it's because I still haven't cleared that one. Fine. So let's remove that path. Let's remove that path for good measure. So basically just faking what the new code is doing. Container is empty. Restarting us. Okay. Let's do a list. Okay. See what happens. If it was gonna work, it would probably have worked by now. Unless it's indeed doing a file system remap, which is plausible. Unable to resolve containers with FS. Yeah, okay, so it does want its symlink. Fine. So you're gonna need to actually move that logic there. Yeah, I just got the message in the chat saying replace stop with start. Yeah, guess that person's running a bit behind on the live stream. Indeed, that was the issue. It's been fixed now. Okay, so let's go look at that convert path function, see what it does in live. I just don't want to lift it if it's not gonna be relevant. Because what we effectively need to do is do like a read the symlink and just rewrite it with the new path. Let's see. I might just be faster to just do it from scratch. So for the and we're just ranging on. We need to do both containers and virtual machines. Okay. Then what is it? Is it read that we need? If I go back to this one, it's probably read there. Yeah. So we just want a list of entries in there. So that's a io-util.read, and we want that file path join of the target daemon. So it's target paths dot daemon, and then the we're going through, and that's going to be returning an error as well. So let's do that. actually need a copy of that string here. And then the error. Okay. And the entries are just the file name. Okay. So, so again, iterating this time on that entries. So need to grab the, so the, let's do a, so the source path effectively. So the symlink itself, that's gonna be target paths dot daemon and then the entry itself, so name dot. And what we need to figure out is the target. So for the target, there needs to be, I suspect it's read link that was used. And that's what the rewrite symlink function is for. So, which was defined in utils. No, where was rewrite symlink? Oh, right, okay, it was there, I just missed it. Oh, it was just defined in line. Okay, cool. So yeah, we need to grab the target path. So effectively, old target effectively. It's gonna become, so it's read through that. So just do a read link on the symlink itself. Okay. So that gives us the previous target. And then effectively we need to do a string replace from the old path to the new path and then set the symlink, and that should be fine. So new target is gonna be, just go straight up strings replace on source path, and we want to replace target paths.daemon, never mind, source paths.daemon with target paths.daemon. Okay. And finally, so we need to actually delete the symlink. I don't expect that to fail, but who knows? Okay. And then once that's deleted, we can go ahead and create it again. So OS symlink, and in this case, the new target, and that needs to go to that. Failed to create symlink. Okay, so that's kind of the rough idea. No idea if I actually got that right the first time, because that's the kind of logic that can be a bit tricky and it's very easy to mess up. Obviously it's not happy with me because I need a bunch of imports. So I need in path, that's file path exists. Like that. IO util, I don't remember if it's its own package or it's a sub package of IO. Okay, sub package of IO looks like. IO util, there we go. And then strings needs to be imported as well. Okay. Oh yeah, and then line 314. So if we go back down there. Okay. It's actually, so this one is wrong. It's old target I need to look at. And as far as number of replaces expected, 1 should be fine. And this is built. Okay. Now, again, not really expecting this to work. Because the likelihood of playing with symlink rewrite and have it work properly the first time around is not very high. But let's see. So if I transfer the binary now, okay, and I run it, it's gonna complain about just password, that's fine. And then it's gonna go and actually do the migration. I'm just hoping that whatever error, if it does fail, it's gonna be clear enough to figure out what I messed up. Okay, it didn't complain about the target paths or anything, so that's good. I don't know that it actually did the work, but let's see. So, yeah, devlxd is gone, sh mounts is gone and actually has been restored with something that's correct, so that's fine. Oh, well, apparently that worked. So containers is all good. Root go bin incus list. Okay, so the containers are there. They're still not happy. Let's see why they're not happy. They are not happy because... Oh, yeah, okay. If that's the only problem, that's fine. It's because we've got... what's the name of the package now? Effectively, there's mediated UID map handling on this distro due to some package being installed. Yeah, package called UID map. So if you wipe the 2 files in itsy, subuid, subgid, and you delete UID map, and then restart incus, that should work a whole lot better. So if I do a list, okay. There we go. That's cool. That's working fine. All right, so let's just revert the VM again to kind of do a final demo of the whole thing actually working. So I'm gonna be restoring that back to its snapshot. Then go back in once it starts running. I'm gonna wipe the UID map stuff from it before it actually causes us problems. So that can go away. Then stop the VM. Okay. Gonna create a new snapshot of it and start it back up. And this time the demo should work just perfectly. Okay, so let's see once we have it running. Okay, I've got the terminal here. Building a binary, transferring it. That terminal is not happy. Okay, terminal is happy again. Cool. Okay, so now we're in VM that's got lxd running. It's got 2 containers running. We can see the snap is installed. Everything is there and just working fine. Incus itself, so if we do root go bin incus list, incus is there, but it doesn't have anything. And now we run our lxd-to-incus tool, which tells us that, hey, your source server has a config key that's not supported. So you go and clear that config key, then run the tool again. And this time it actually goes through the validation, stops the server, stops all the instances as part of that. Then it will go and move the data, rewrite the symlinks, start things back up on the incus side, and then after making sure incus responds, goes and deletes the snap. So with that done, snap is gone. Look at our process list, we've got containers running. And if we go and do a list, hey, here we go, containers, and I can even go in the containers and interact with them with incus. So that's working. As I said, not the final version of this tool by a long shot. I need to do a bunch of cleanup on it, but yeah, it's a piece of code that does what I wanted it to do. It's got the logic to connect on source and target, do some validation, migrate the data, clean things up. It needs a bunch more things, like it needs to check a lot more config keys to make sure things are sane. It needs to actually show a summary before it goes ahead and do stuff. Needs to show a bit more information at the end when things are done. Also needs to draw support for migrating from a lxd-deb or even other distros in theory. Can be handled by this, just needs to add more sources effectively. But yeah, this is functional, and that's probably gonna be sent upstream in the next few days and will be part of the initial release of Incus. So hopefully this was interesting. That live stream has been going on for what, just a bit under 2 hours. So hopefully for the few of you who stuck around the whole time, this was interesting to see. And for anyone else who's kind of just skipping to the end, well, there's a tool that actually works. It needs some more polishing, some more testing, like all of the kind of edge cases and everything. But it will show up upstream in the next few days, and will be part of the initial Incus release in the next few weeks. Thanks a lot for watching. If you've got any questions around any of this, feel free to leave them down below in the comment section, or you can go on our community forum or GitHub, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.